2 games, 2 South Florida teams, both with their eyes set on getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. Title 42 expires today.
We're making it very clear that our border is not open.
But there's a new plan at the southern border. And candidate Trump faces voters in a Wednesday night town hall.
If the family hears that they're going to be separated, they love their family.
These stories and more coming up on Newsbreak.
Hello, South Florida. I'm Kenya Cardone.
I'm Amanda Gray. Today's Thursday, May 11th, 2023.
Live from the FIU Lee Kaplan School of Journalism and Media, this is SFMN Newsbreak.
Double trouble for 2 major South Florida sports teams on a night that could have sent both of them to their sports Eastern Conference Finals. At the beginning of the night, it was simple for the Heat and Panthers. Win, and you're in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Then things got complicated. The Panthers game started first, and they gave up the first 2 goals. And although they tried to battle back and defend home ice, they were only able to score 1 on the Toronto Maple Leafs rookie goalie. Things got so tense that there was a fight as time expired. In a game that was settled by just 1 goal, it was frustrating that one of the goals got an assist from the referee. Take a look.
In across the line. As Bunting drew the penalty. Trying to swing it around, and it's in!
The final score here, Toronto 2, Panthers 1. The second game of the night featured the Heat visiting the New York Knicks. The Knicks defense was able to hold all of the Heat players under 20 and won the game 112-103. Despite the losses, it was exciting for local fans. Many of them had to head to sports bars because for a night like last night, home just doesn't have enough TVs. A night to remember for all South Florida sports fans. The Miami Heat versus the New York Knicks and Florida Panthers versus Toronto Maple Leafs. The teams going head-to-head gunning for a spot in the Eastern Conference Finals. Fans took to sports bars and restaurants all across South Florida to watch the games, and we went to Bottled Blondes in Wynwood, where some of them spoke to us about their predictions.
Oh, Heat in 5. We're winning.
Well, tonight the Knicks are going to win by about 35, and then the Knicks are going to win in 7. Yo, KD, aren't you mad you didn't come to the Knicks? Bing bong!
So at this point of the night, we're about halfway through both games, and unfortunately, none of our South Florida teams are on top right now. But the tension here in Bottled Blondes is through the roof, and fans tell us that it's going to be a tough call. And indeed it was. In the end, both South Florida teams lost. Final score 112-103 Knicks, 2-1 Maple Leafs. Across the bar, mixed feelings.
Toronto, they could pull it off because they score a lot too. So I think they could force a game 7 if they win the next game, obviously.
I think I'm pretty much devastated tonight. We were down 20, we pulled the game close. If you look at Jimmy Butler's Instagram, he was drinking wine all night last night in New York. He posted until 4 a.m. and he was up at 8 a.m. So I think he didn't have the closeout mentality tonight.
And if you missed last night, you didn't completely miss out. The same situation is happening again tomorrow. Panthers at Leafs at 7 p.m. and Knicks at Heat 7:30. A win for either South Florida team will close out the series.
Title 42 expires today. The policy, put in place in 2020 to curb the spread of COVID, gave the U.S. government power to swiftly expel migrants at the southern border. CNN reporter Gloria Pazmino is in El Paso, Texas this morning.
Million times since the policy began. You can see behind me just a wall separates the U.S. and Mexico. And beyond these gates, there's a group of migrants waiting to be processed ahead of the expiration of Title 42 at midnight today. That's when the country returns to decades-old protocols at a time of unprecedented mass migration in the Western Hemisphere.
Es la voluntad de Dios porque voy para mi familia.
Eric Mendoza is breaking down. He faces the possibility of deportation after making the months-long trek from his native Honduras. He says he paid $50 for the set of documents. It's a likely scam many migrants, desperate for answers, are falling prey to.
Porque quiero entrar legal.
He says he wants to be here legally. Just like him, there are thousands more in El Paso. Rosaura Rivas says her husband and 4 kids fled violence from Venezuela. They spent the last month at this shelter. She helps out in the kitchen trying to save money to buy bus tickets to Denver, where they have friends. The Opportunity Center for the Homeless in El Paso can barely keep up.
We need to do what's right by these folks. They've gone through so much.
Meanwhile, El Paso city officials are working to open up emergency shelters and say the city is at a breaking point.
We want to be able to find a solution to how do we take care of the human person, because they are human beings.
Federal officials are trying to discourage migrants from crossing.
Let me be clear. The lifting of the Title 42 public health order does not mean our border is open. In fact, it is the contrary.
Those who are already here wait and do their best with what they have. Others try to stay connected and hopeful, while their families on the other side of a screen are a constant reminder of why they're here. Now, there is already an unprecedented number of people turning themselves into Border Patrol, and the surge is creating a strain on the system. More than 26,000 people are already in custody, but many more are waiting just beyond the border. Reporting in El Paso, Texas, Gloria Pasmino, back to you.
As Ron DeSantis considers a possible presidential run, he's making an issue out of the border crisis. Yesterday in Jacksonville, Governor DeSantis signed a bill targeting undocumented immigrants in Florida. Under the new law, transporting a person without a regulated immigration status is punishable by prison time or a fine. It also requires hospitals and companies to collect the immigration status of patients, as well as preventing immigrants without a valid ID from driving a car or becoming lawyers, and so much more.
Today, former President Donald Trump makes history, showing a significant lead in the Republican primary polls this early on. Trump over 50% in national polls of likely primary voters. The nearest potential challenger, Ron DeSantis, is averaging little more than 20% of the vote. There are almost no cases of a non-incumbent candidate reaching near or over 50% this early on. Last night, Trump was at a CNN town hall in New Hampshire speaking with voters. Here's more now on what happened at that town hall.
How prepared is your family if a tornado shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a hurricane? You can't just turn away a natural disaster.
Former President and current GOP frontrunner Donald Trump answering questions directly from New Hampshire Republicans and uncommitted voters.
Will you suspend polarizing talk of election fraud during your run for president?
I hope we're going to have very honest elections. We should have voter ID. We should have one-day elections. We should have paper ballots instead of these mail-in votes.
The former president still refusing to acknowledge his loss in the 2020 election.
Will you pardon the January 6 rioters who were convicted of federal offenses?
I am inclined to pardon many of them.
Last night, CNN hosted town hall comes one day after a Manhattan federal jury found Trump liable for sexually abusing and defaming former Advice columnist E. Jean Carroll.
I never met this woman. I never saw this woman. This is a fake story, made up story.
It's one in a long list of legal battles he is fighting. Trump pleaded not guilty last month to 34 felony criminal charges of falsifying business records in Manhattan. He could also face additional charges in Washington and Georgia on separate cases.
Washington, D.C., you cannot get a fair trial. You cannot. Just like in New York City, you can't get a fair trial either.
Sources inside the former president's campaign hope the town hall provides Trump a chance to appeal to voters beyond his intensely devoted base.
If elected president again, what is the first thing you would do to help bring down the cost to make things more affordable?
Drill, baby, drill. You know about that. We have to save this country. Our country is dying. Our country is being destroyed by stupid people.
Another talked about moment from the town hall was when the former president was asked twice about whether he wanted Ukraine or Russia to win the war, and he wouldn't say. He answered only that as president, he could help end the war quickly and prevent more deaths.
Today is the day that Dolphins fans circle on their calendar when the 2023 full season schedule gets released.
That's still ahead, and so is the story.
Under the glove of Perdomo, and just like that, we're tied up. Garrett Hampson once again a problem for the Diamondbacks.
With losses from both the Heat and the Panthers, local sports fans could really use a win. How about the Marlins? Newsbreak will be back in 2 minutes.
How prepared is your family if a tornado shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a hurricane? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes. Make a plan today.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign, not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly.
Lights out.
Good night. And put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
I help our fellows design their paths as creative entrepreneurs. My experiences serving startups, creative businesses, and cultural organizations, and my journey as a queer mixed immigrant with Haitian and Arabic roots, inform the co-creative environment we foster at Radcliffe. We leverage our collective diversity to encourage the building of lifelong personal learning networks and mindsets that stimulate continuous innovation.
Fight for 500. The Marlins needed a win out west to get back to even for the season. The Miami Marlins are coming home after taking the series win over the Arizona Diamondbacks. It was a close game that the Fish had to come back from in the fourth inning. We'll start there. The Marlins were down 1 run and were able to tie in the fifth. And it wasn't until the final inning that the Fish came back with Joey Wendell's RBI double. The final score was Marlins 5, Diamondbacks 4, and the Marlins will come home to play the Cincinnati Reds tomorrow at 6:40 p.m.
The Miami Dolphins had a little fun ahead of their 2023 regular season scheduled release. In a Twitter video released by the team, Javon Holland and Elijah Campbell are seen dancing. The Dolphins have 2 marquee matchups in November against the New York Jets and Kansas City Chiefs. The full schedule will be released today at 8 p.m. You're watching Newsbreak, and we're coming right back.
I could really use a new tablet. I just don't have the money.
Let me ask you something. Do you have a Pell Grant?
Yes?
You do know you can get a free tablet, right?
Did you say free?
Yeah, free. It's simple. And the application is done in the store.
I could really use a tablet.
Go get one. Another satisfied customer. Stop by Panthertech in the Graham Center at FIU MMC today to speak with one of our associates to get your free tablet.
Type 2 diabetes can have a big impact on your life. But how can it be prevented? Well, the first step is knowing if you have something called prediabetes. Take the 1-minute risk test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
That's all the time we have for Newsbreak. I'm Amanda Gray.
And I'm Kenya Cardone. Get more news anytime at sfmn.fiu.edu.